Welcome back to Make Your Move. Today's guest is Dallas Jamison. Dallas is a former F-18 pilot for the Navy. Dallas is now a FedEx pilot flying big planes that bring packages to your front door, and he flies all around the world. It's a great story of transition. We'll talk about how Dallas imagined what it might be and now how he's made the transition and what it is. He was one who made the transition during the middle of the pandemic, and there were some unique challenges there. We'll shout out to his mentors that helped him along the way. They might surprise you. And he has his own observations of what works in business and what's his best business tip. I think it'll resonate. Listen in. Here we go. Dallas Jamison. And here we are with Dallas Jamison. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Gene. Happy to be here.
Well, I try to start all of these episodes out for this season where we're dealing with Scott Manthorne's book, The Military Effect. How did you find yourself in chapter 9 of the book? And you might not even know you're in chapter 9 because it's just being released. But how did you meet Scott?
Yeah, so I didn't even know the book. I haven't read it yet. I haven't got it yet. So, but that's exciting news that it has been released. So I got to be part of the book because one of my wife's friends growing up married someone who happens to work with Scott when it comes to publishing and writing books. And I was asked basically whenever my wife's friend's husband, whenever he heard my story and when we talked about it and stuff, he basically said, "Hey, a buddy of mine, Scott, is doing a project having to do with people's transition out of the military. And I think it'd be great for you to share some of your experiences with him in that book." And so from there, he basically connected Scott and I, and the rest is history.
Scott's a pretty persuasive guy, isn't he?
He is. He is. I was definitely at first, I was a little hesitant about the whole thing because I wasn't sure what it was completely about. But after talking to him, I thought it was a very unique project. I thought it was a good project. And for me personally, and my transition out of the military, my one thought was that if somebody reads my chapter in the book and can hear kind of my process and my thoughts and my feelings, which obviously everybody's adventure is different, then if somebody reads it and it works for them and it helps them with the process of transitioning out, then that's a huge success.
Well, Scott's manner of reaching you is just another perfect example of networking. And for people like me, I'm a bit introverted more typically, and I have to force myself to be more outward. But networking really just requires pushing through and portraying confidence in a situation that may be unfamiliar. And throughout the book and throughout these podcast interviews, we continue to see that Scott just put himself in front of people and made it happen. And that's how business success can unfold as well.
Absolutely. I'm definitely more introverted as well. And so very hesitant to get, into all of, my story and stuff like that. And but it was easy to talk to Scott, and it was great to kind of talk through some of that transition and stuff like that.
Good stuff. Well, Dallas, what are you doing today? Tell us where you are and what you're doing work-wise.
So I currently live just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. I grew up in this area, so my wife and our two kids, we moved back here to this area, and I'm currently a pilot with FedEx Express. So I fly MD-11s for FedEx out of Memphis, Tennessee, and I commute to work in Memphis from Charlotte.
And how did you find that particular line of work?
So I was a pilot in the Navy, and that's what I did. I grew up loving flying and started flying at a super young age. My uncle was a pilot, and I started flying with him and caught the bug. And I flew in high school, and then I went to the Naval Academy to start flying, and then basically did it for 20 plus years in the military. And then after that, I didn't want to stop flying, even though it was time for me to retire from the Navy. I didn't want to stop flying because I love being in the air and flying. And so it was kind of a natural progression to leave from flying in the Navy to then going and flying in the commercial sector. And interestingly, I always thought FedEx would be a great place to work. There's a lot of prior military at FedEx, and the feel at FedEx when you're in the operations center is kind of like being in a large ready room again. And so it has an awesome feel, a great camaraderie there. So FedEx was always something that I wanted to do. However, when I was retiring from the Navy, we were right in the middle of COVID, and there was no other option really. So basically, FedEx and UPS were hiring, and all the passenger carriers were not hiring because of the fact that basically COVID had kind of shut down air travel. So even if FedEx wasn't my first choice, which it was, that was one of the only choices at the time. So that's how I ended up at FedEx.
When you were imagining the post-military career and you had some idea that you might fly commercially, what did you envision that window of ability to work in that space might be? Would you see yourself working to, is there a fixed retirement age? How does that work in commercial aviation?
So when you're flying Part 121, which is what you think of whenever you're talking about American Airlines, Delta, United, FedEx, UPS, you have to retire per the FAA at 65. So 65 is a mandatory retirement age. If you want to go do other types of flying commercially, then you can work a little bit longer. But so my mandatory retirement age is 65 at FedEx. And it's kind of interesting because when I retired from the Navy, I was at 43. And so what it allowed me to do was be able to basically start a whole nother career flying for FedEx after I finished up a career in the Navy. So you're 100% spot on that age is definitely an issue when you're looking to make that transition because you've got a limited window to be able to do that in the commercial sector.
You know, a lot of people don't recognize when they're evaluating their post-military career that regardless of the type of work, you have a defined window of time in which you can work. And it may change for different people for different reasons. There could be health issues later in life. There could be technological changes to an industry that somebody is in. But sometimes we don't fully consider that it is a relatively finite window for that second career. Yours just seems to have pretty well-defined guardrails on it.
It does. I mean, it's a legal requirement, so you're right. And honestly, there's a lot of factors that came into my decision to transition and retire out of the Navy. But one of them very much was thinking about the fact that if I were to continue on and do like to take another tour and continue down that path, I'm now just eating into the window to be able to do this other chapter in my life. And even though I love my time in the Navy, it was great. It was awesome to be able to close that book and put it up on the shelf and leave it for what it is, and then start a whole nother chapter in my life where I'm able to have tons of family time and be able to live in a non-military town and basically just live a civilian lifestyle while still being able to fly and get that opportunity to have that camaraderie that I loved so much in the Navy and in the ready rooms and in the squadrons I was in. I still get that camaraderie with the guys I fly with and the guys I get to see on, a weekly basis when I go to work. So I kind of now get to have some of the best parts of both of those worlds, which is really awesome.
What does that work schedule look like for you?
It's not unlike being in the Navy. It's a very flexible kind of schedule, and that we basically will bid based off your seniority at the airline. Yet again, another reason to kind of leave at a certain time to have enough time there to actually get some seniority. You bid for your schedule every single month. So about a month prior, I will bid for what I'm going to do the next month, and you get awarded it based off your seniority. And sometimes I'll do a 12-day trip, and that's it for the month. Sometimes I do 3 4-day trips, and that's it for the month. It's always a little bit different, and it's always different locations. Sometimes I'm in Guangzhou, China. Sometimes I'm in Portland, Oregon. Sometimes, like yesterday, I was in San Juan, Puerto Rico. So it's always different. It's always changing, which is also exciting and fun. Kind of like the military, it's never the same thing. You're never flying with the same guy. You're never going to the same place, and you're working a lot of different times. And it's great because when you're you're gone, you're gone, which that kind of stinks. But when you're home, you're completely home. So when I'm home, you're going to your kid's water day, and you're 100% engaged. You don't have to answer the phone. You don't have to answer emails. You don't have to do anything. So home is completely home, which is awesome.
Are you guaranteed a certain number of flight hours per month or
You
sort of work rate? I mean, you described that there could be different numbers of days involved, but is there some baseline?
you're contractually guaranteed a certain number of hours every single month and a total for the year. You can pick up more hours if you want to fly more, and you can also drop trips and fly less if you want to spend more time at home. So me being a retired military member and having a pension from, the military, it provides the family a ton of flexibility to have the financial freedom to be able to drop trips sometimes and spend more time at home. There's been months where I didn't work at all. I stayed at home the entire month just because I was able to get rid of a trip, and we had a lot of plans and things we wanted to do. And so you just basically take the whole month off. You get paid. You're an hourly employee as an airline pilot, with a guaranteed number of hours unless you decide to get rid of them. So that month I didn't get paid, but the U.S. government still paid me. So I was still, like I said, it provides a great amount of financial freedom.
Yeah. Let's talk about the transition window here just a little bit. When you were evaluating options, did you look at other industries or did you know it was going to be commercial aviation?
So I'll be honest, I didn't even think about really what I would do other than flying. I didn't look at doing something other than flying. I've always enjoyed flying. And it's what I know. And so, and truly, it's a great industry to be a part of. I mean, if anybody was considering what they wanted to do, I would always encourage someone to be a part of the industry. It's a great place to work. It's a great place to be. So nope, I never really considered anything else. I always kind of knew, truthfully, when I started in the military, my end state goal was eventually to go do this. And I thought that the military would be fun to do. I went to the Naval Academy, so it was great to get that education and then fly. And I didn't think I'd stay for 20 years, but when I started doing it, I enjoyed it. I liked what I was doing, and so I continued to kind of kick down the road my decision to retire. And then right before I started my last tour, when I was a commanding officer of VFA 81, Strike Fighter Squadron 81, and right before that tour, I had the privilege of meeting my wonderful wife in DC, and then we started a family right as I went to that tour, and I that was definitely the deciding factor that it was time for me to continue and retire and transition out. Basically, I did two full deployments in that last tour, so I was factually on the ship deployed more than I was home. And I made it home 2 weeks prior to my daughter's birth and 1 week prior to my son's birth. And those were not guarantees that I was going to make it home for those. And so when you couple those factors with, we talked about that window of being able to work for a certain amount of time, it was a quite easy decision to retire. It was not easy to retire, but it was an easy decision to retire.
How challenging was it to change types of planes like that, going from an F-18 to the FedEx model?
So I fly an MD-11 at FedEx, which is a really large plane, and it is completely different. It is, I mean, flying's flying, but it is a very different. It's a different mindset. It's a different type of flying, and I would say that FedEx does a great job with their training program to get me, to where I have always felt comfortable flying that plane. And so the training was great there, and they did a wonderful job of getting me where I needed to be. So it wasn't hard, but it wasn't easy. It was still a challenge, and it was kind of refreshing to go to, even though it's still flying, to start another challenge in my life and do a different type of flying all over the world in a large cargo plane. So.
But a shout out to a mentor who has helped you along the way.
I've had a ton of mentors along the way. I have the most unique thing though is that So you have your mentors that are senior to you in the military that are guiding you through that military process. And then when I was transitioning out, the unique thing was that my buddies that were junior to me in the military who had gotten out at their first window of opportunity, those were the guys that I relied on to get the information on how to successfully interview at FedEx, how to do your application, all the wickets you have to meet because you have all these unique things that I didn't do in the military. I had to get specific FAA ratings. I had to get a different type of medical. I had to get an FCC radio operator license. And so I found myself relying on people that I used to that used to be junior to me, and now they're the people that are mentoring me in the process. And there's a guy named Drew Wyrick who was in a squadron with me, who helped walk me through the process going to FedEx, and that was he was very pivotal in me being able to come to FedEx. And there's another gentleman, Adam Kyle, who was in a squadron with me, who helped me get into FedEx. In fact, to get a job at FedEx on the pilot side, you pretty much need a thing called a personal endorsement. And so basically a pilot that's already there, that's been there for a certain amount of time, has to provide an endorsement to be able to get you a job there. And Adam Kyle gave me his personal endorsement, and he was a guy that was a junior officer when I was a department head in a squadron. And I know that might not be civilian lingo, but he was a 03 in the squadron when I was a senior 04 in the squadron, and he was pivotal to me getting there. And then Drew Wyrick actually took my resume and brought it to one of the chief pilots and said, "Hey, this is a fellow gold winger. He'd be a great fit for us. Like we need to try to get him an interview." And courtesy of those two and many other people, I was fortunate enough to get an interview and be able to get a job at FedEx.
Great. So those juniors now have seniority on you at FedEx?
Absolutely. They're both captains at FedEx, and I'm still a first officer. So they're senior to me, and they're teaching me a lot of stuff. And it's really unique how you can go from being someone who is a senior guy in a squadron teaching them things, and then it flips over, and now I'm the new guy, and I'm learning stuff in this new industry. And it's kind of funny, but it's also it's fun. It's just a unique thing. And it kind of goes to show you that, like, as a leader, I feel like sometimes you get focused on what the people, as senior to you want or what they need. And then sometimes, like you're taking care of your junior guys and you feel like, hey, I got to take care of my guys, and this, that, the other. And I guess it just goes to show you that you never know when the people that you're taking care of have the opportunity down the road to also take care of you. So those the relationships that you establish and the way you take care of people and the leader that you are to them, sometimes gets flipped around and you reap the benefits of the time that you invest in other people.
Well, in your time in the commercial space, is there a business lesson learned that you could share with the audience that we'll close out on? What have you seen that's different in the business community than on active duty?
I think I'm gonna answer your question, but it might not be exactly what you were looking for. I feel like the same things that you do in the military, your attention to detail, your caring about what you do, the taking care of people, and the relationships that you establish, I feel like those exact same things translate into the civilian sector and make you successful in the civilian sector and can provide you all of the same, for lack of a better word, like benefits that you get in the military. I would say the one difference is that when you get to the civilian sector, there's not that established rank structure. It's kind of a little bit more flat. And so those people skills and those relationships become even more important because you have to rely on that skill set and that teamwork to still get the job done. But you really need it because there's not a rank structure per se, if that makes sense. I mean, there still is, but it's not. Like I'm in a field of a wide swath of seniority amongst first officers, but we're all first officers and we're all, working to trade trips and get stuff done and help each other get free time and stuff. I don't know. That might be very unique to my industry, but
no, it's always about the people and your ability to work with the people. I think it's a very astute observation. Dallas, thanks so much for the interview.
yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to reading the entire book and chapter 9.
Chapter 9 is a good one.
Thanks. I appreciate it.